Hello ladies and gentlemen, WillE here. At one point or another, your time in an MMORPG would have been made by another player, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Having an online world where hundreds or thousands of people can brush shoulders with a degree of anonymity brings out the interesting side of some people, but at the same time, the most unlikely of friends from all over the world can be formed. And over playing WoW, I've had my fair experiences of both. Back when I first started, I was finding my way through Westfall around Moonbrook when a level 50-something hunter walked up and asked me if I wanted to run through the Dead Mines dungeon. I had heard of this dungeon, of course, people were always looking for groups for the place. Of course I wanted to see it, and this absolute legend just took me through the whole dungeon like that. I got a full clear, all of the gear, and then we parted ways, and to this day Westfall, Dead Mines and the story surrounding the area remain one of my favourite places to level in WoW, and it's a zone I never miss on a new character. Of course, one of the draws of an MMO is that you can make your own stories and playstyles, and there is content clearly laid out for you, but the manner in which it can be achieved can be done in so many different ways. It's the flexibility and creativity that goes into an MMO that make them different, yet such an engaging experience for many. Some players take this to the extreme, having entire in-game events, installing add-ons where they can meticulously lay out their character's backstory and motivations in the world, replaying huge lore points in real time with actors, and actually having storyboards and scripts to study prior, spending weeks setting up an event like a real movie to take place. Whereas some other people spend their time as a Stormwind Guard, and other people spend their time upstairs in Goldshire Inn doing other things. Over time, and this is true for many MMOs in fact, things have gradually moved away from creating opportunities for people to get together and play together to more playing together but alone. You have the game, you like what it involves, the character progression, the story, whatever it may be, but you don't have as much time as you used to be able to say with certainty I can play at X time on Y day. The commitment is harder to commit to, or frankly, the push to be the best top-end level player has become exponentially more difficult over time as players have gradually become better with the game, and the state it's in now just seems overly excessive. Not to mention absolutely everything will be shown online not longer after release by the current top-end players. For retail World of Warcraft, for example, not only can you see the boss kills by the top-end mythic guilds, but you can watch the entire progression with comms live, which has been a thing since around BFA. It all used to be shrouded in mystery until somebody put out a video, usually including a lot of epic music. Classic, however, is a little more old school in its design, or I should say, a lot. Run to dungeons, instances that are literal mazes designed to take hours, Maradon, BRD, a full strat clear. There's 40-man raiding. If you need somebody new for a group, well, you have to start spamming the chat. Want to not have a miserable time in a battleground? You're probably going to need a pre-made for that. There's no LFD, no LFR, no automation, just good old DIY. And players have tried to expedite these processes through add-ons, of course. They have. Humans are super min-maxy. That's why when you're hungry, you order a Papa John's, you don't go to your local park and start sharpening sticks to throw at squirrels. You filthy casual. And when a game gets old, people start finding new ways to play it because they still like it, but the regular speedrun to endgame do the endgame complained about their nothing to do and repeat sort of has a sell-by date on it. There are people out there who have done the entire World of Warcraft expansion cycles on fan servers half a dozen times or more. I mean, to each their own, but that's not for everybody. This is where people start taking a game genre designed to start making your own fun within the game and start making their own fun within the game, albeit in a slightly more deliberate way. Who can get the fastest time to reach a level cap? Get to level cap without using armor or weapons, a hunter to cap without using a pet, mathing out twink characters for different combat brackets, getting rank 14 before hitting level 60, all these self-imposed restrictions, getting to level cap without dying, and perhaps even beating the last 40-man boss of Molten Core, Ragnaros, with an entire raid of players who have never died. Imagine that. Enter Season of Mastery, Blizzard's first go at a true seasonal server. Many of the changes were tailored to make the endgame a different experience this time around, or faster due to the increased release cadence. Double ranking points for PvPers, entirely switching up endgame encounters, trying to make them more challenging, new mechanics, new adds, a new game to figure out, at least boss-wise, was waiting for them, all topped off with a no world buff crutch so you couldn't blast through everything before they get a chance to react. Despite all of this, something entirely player-driven that would have existed with or without any of these changes has caught many players' interest in the game and for the viewers on Twitch and YouTube alike. This is the Hardcore Challenge. Now, this isn't the first time a widespread challenge has been adopted by streamers and players alike on the game. Oh no, here's a little clip from somebody you might recognize.
Asking you guys what kind of content you'd want to see on the channel, I threw out the idea, the example of the Iron Man challenge, and oh my god, you guys went crazy about that. I thought that was just an idea. You know, I didn't think people would actually want to see me shooting arrows at boars in full white gear for like 20 hours, right? But apparently you guys do.
This was back during WoD, of course, and if you can say one thing about Warlords of Draenor, it made the properly addicted players get creative with the game. But anyways, back during WoD, there was the Iron Man Challenge. These were some of the rules they had then. No gear higher than white quality, no enchantments, no talents, no primary professions, no consumables, no dungeons, no raids, no arenas, no battlegrounds, no basically anything other than crappy gear, and a lot of grinding, though this did take place back during the WoD era of leveling, and by that point it was much easier, so I can sort of understand all the restrictions they put in place. It was also around Warlords of Draenor that people were starting to hurt for the leveling experience that the game offered in the past, and they started to try and seek out that again for fun. Also, there was kind of nothing to do for a lot of WoD. It was during a WoD panel actually that JL and Brat gave the "you think you do but you don't" speech. But anyway, back around to Season of Mastery and the Hardcore Challenge, as well as the Road to Ragnaros. The idea of Hardcore has existed since midway through Classic, by and for players whose endgame isn't about killing all the bosses once per week, but instead it's in the open world, getting the feel of hitting the level when you get that ability that changes how your entire class works, like Whirlwind for warriors or Cone of Cold for mages, solving the puzzle of the optimal route to go for leveling, and taking on those low-level elite quests with what your character has to offer at whatever particular level it may be. And for Season of Mastery, the Hardcore Challenge was continued once you are 60. You can then join the Road to Ragnaros, a slightly different rule set to make grouping and repeating dungeons more accessible, and at the time when the challenge was established there was no knowledge that Blizzard were about to massively buff the raiding content. Nevertheless, it has continued, and they aim to claim their prize and douse the Fire Lord in a few days' time. And Blizzard has added some acknowledgement towards hardcore players, but as ever with Classic, with hardcore players returning, others have taken it upon themselves to make life a bit more difficult than it already was for them. The inevitable return of the griefers, and people getting mad that the hardcore players have actually decided they want to make workarounds for those kind of issues. People always get very up in arms to defend griefing in Classic because it's one of the last few MMOs when there is so much scope to annoy other players just for the sake of it, and they treat it as though it's something sacred that makes the game what it is, just like dispelling world buffs was. It's kind of a weird thing to do, but in a way I get it. But what Blizzard have considered a sideline event in hardcore and have only dedicated 2 NPCs, a few lines of text and some new spell icons has become the crux of the seasonal server, and it shows how much community challenges can thrive when given the opportunity to do so. I imagine there's plans after they beat Ragnaros, assuming they do. Season of Mastery BWL is on the PTR at the moment, and it is not looking like a walk in the park, put it like that. Blizzard have also mentioned recently in a blue post they were considering adding polling in-game for Season of Mastery to try and gauge players' interest on various hot issues. Overall, though, I'd say Season of Mastery has gone about as well as you would have expected it to so far. If private servers can show us one thing, and they have essentially been seasonal servers for years and years now, is that Classic will always see a big drop off of players at or around AQ. And I reckon the Raiders will be the last ones playing because they're the only people who are really getting consistent, meaningful, different updates. And that's fine. Players have made up a huge portion of the content by themselves for this season, and they will do for the next one as well, whatever that may be. It's up to Blizzard, however, to lean into what people are already doing and facilitate that in a way that makes sense with the gameplay ideals of Classic as well as the graphical fidelity. This will take people at the helm of Classic who actually understand the game and what players will or won't want though. Judging from the targeted changes in Season of Mastery to things such as boosting, world buffs and so on, whatever you think of them now, these were wildly common opinions during Classic. I am cautiously optimistic. Players can certainly have ideas, but it is on Blizzard to deliver on them. Whatever happens, I think Season 2 of Classic is going to be even more player driven and a lot more wild in its rule set than this. Let me know your thoughts on it all, whether you've had any standout moments from other players when you've been playing MMOs. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you all in the next one very soon.